It is April 17th. It is day 88 of the Trump presidency, and some pretty consequential things happened today. First and foremost, a 3-panel judge from the 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals has unanimously refused to suspend Judge Zinnis's order that the Trump administration is going to have to give testimony as to whether or not they have actually tried to facilitate Mr. Garcia's safe return. Please go and listen to or read their statements about this. It's a little bit long, but it's incredibly profound and it's really important. And they basically are essentially, for all intents and purposes, pleading with Trump and the Trump administration to adhere to the rule of law. And they are addressing how dangerous what is happening is. And they very directly address the fact that if this is happening now, there is nothing stopping the Trump administration from beginning to deport American citizens simply because they say they want to. Because they are not adhering to due process. And there is a reason that we have due process in this country, and it doesn't matter if you're a citizen. It's not just for U.S. citizens. And that is important. It's important. You can't just pin a crime on someone because they're not a U.S. citizen and have them take the fall, right? We have a real legal system here, and it's not perfect, and it never has been. But now we're really, again, this country is being put through the most intense stress test that we've ever experienced. And no one knows what the outcome is going to be. But I think that the more that the courts stand up to President Trump and his goons, the better off we will all be in the end of this. And the more pieces of democracy will hold and won't be blown apart. And time will tell how much of us is left in the end. Okay, so in some unfortunate news, although we don't know where this will go, the Supreme Court has agreed to hear arguments from the Trump administration over birthright citizenship, which, as you know, the Trump administration wants to do away with birthright citizenship. That is going to be happening in May. In the meantime, they have suspended the Trump administration's ability to ignore birthright citizenship because they, if you don't recall, said that anyone born here after, I think, February 19th of this year, February 20th of this year, was not going to be considered a U.S. citizen if they were not born to parents that had citizenship. Anyways, yeah, that's going to be a really big case, and it's going to have a really huge impact. And again, in the meantime, they are just ripping people off the streets. I've seen multiple videos today. There was a young couple that was seeking asylum here, and they ice broke their car windows. It wasn't even the person that they were looking for. They're profiling people. They're grabbing young kids off the street. I believe that they just deported a 19-year-old. It's really, really, really scary. And it's going to have a chilling effect on the entire country. Sadly, there was also a campus shooting today at Florida State University. 2 people have died, 6 people are injured. Also, the shooter was wounded and is hospitalized. I don't know what condition he is in. He was a 20-year-old man. His name is Phoenix Ilkner. He was a sheriff deputy's son. He stole her gun and committed this crime with her gun. I don't know that there is any motive currently that they've uncovered. And President Trump has reiterated that while he's sad that this happened, he will not be making any changes to gun laws. Trump is in a huge public, I don't know, is it called a fight if it's just one person, like, talking shit about another person publicly? Okay, so Trump is saying publicly that he can't wait for Jerome Powell to resign or to be done, that he doesn't agree with anything he's doing. He wants him to lower rates. Jerome Powell is saying no, because inflation is still a huge problem, and that, like, our economic weakness, which is actually being caused by Trump, is also a problem, which is the reason that Trump wants him to lower rates, because it would take a little bit of the pressure off of Trump, since people wouldn't be hopefully paying so much for mortgages or loans to pay twice as much for the stupid fucking pickup trucks that they want to buy. In any case, Jerome Powell said no. And Trump is now out in the streets saying that if he asks Jerome Powell to resign, he will do it. So that's interesting. Trump also put him in that position. He hired him in 2018, in case you didn't remember. There's no one that Trump won't turn on. There's no one, including his wives, including his children. But you will all know that very well. The whole world will know that through and through before he takes his last breath, I assure you. So measles has now spread to a couple other states. There are active cases in Michigan, here in Michigan, and in Pennsylvania as well. There are 700 total active cases nationwide currently. I know I heard a crap ton about the case here in Michigan because it's a baby that had just gotten vaccinated for MMR 4 days before the baby got infected. 6 days. How horrifying, by the way. And then they're traveling with this baby. They had the baby in a church. They had the baby at a farmer's market. So theoretically, like, it could have spread quite a bit. I'm sorry, there's a cat hair hanging in front of the camera. The theme of this show is cat hair, which I think would delight most Republican men. And every once in a while, some of them do land here and make some comments before I block them. So anyways, they've never said anything about the cats, though. But they always say, someone came on yesterday talking shit about my voice, which is, I only have one voice. I'm so sorry. I don't have another one to use at this time. So, okay. The spokesman for the Pentagon, whose name is John Ullyott, it's Ullyot. He was hired by Pete Hegseth just, I think, a few weeks ago, or like a couple of months ago, very recently, to kind of go after DEI, to help them complete the DEI purge that they did of the military content online and the federal agencies. Long story short, fighting with Pete Hegseth. The statements that I heard about the situation make it sound like, again, it's like a bunch of, it's like a pack of narcissists, so they all end up hating each other very quickly. And it all comes to a head very quickly. In any case, this man, other people are saying that he was asked to resign or forced to resign. He is saying that he quit, okay? And then he's calling their statements laughable. So they're having like a Real Housewives of the Pentagon fight, which doesn't surprise me. Yeah. Anyways, that's the kind of shit that is going on in this administration, publicly and behind the scenes. That even though they're getting a lot done on the surface for now, if they are going to try to maintain any structure moving forward, it's not going to work. I don't know if you guys remember this, but in Trump's first term, it might have been The Daily Show. We had that like almost like Jeopardy style thing of people's faces that they were just like crossing off from his administration. So as he would fire them, they would cross the person's face off, and there was almost no one left by the time he was out. Yeah. we're blazing through that. Luigi Mangione was indicted today. This headline was like buried. It was, I haven't heard a peep about it on TikTok. Nothing. I know there's a lot going on that is a lot more substantial in many ways. It's just, it has a much larger effect on all of us. And so we're talking about that stuff, and that makes sense. But for the amount of initial attention this story got, it is wild to me that, like, this was one of the, not last headlines, but it was not even, I don't think it was on the first page of headlines. It was nowhere on the AP that I saw. I was like onto my second or third website before I saw it. Anyways, Luigi Mangione was indicted on murder charges, which will make him eligible for the death penalty. He was also charged with 2 counts of stalking and a possession of firearms count. And we know that the DOJ is seeking the death penalty in this case. I find it all to be very odd. There were not a lot of details in the article that I read about this. And I have not heard a follow-up. I know that, like, the prosecution was behind on submitting evidence. There's just some, like, really sketchy things about this case, including everyone pointing out that the eyebrows in the footage of the killer they don't match his eyebrows. Because Luigi Mangione has, like, a lot more growth in the middle than the killer did. There's just some bone structure differences, and I don't know. Anyways, there was also someone that confessed to this murder. I believe he's in the UK. And I don't know what's going on with that. They're, like, really suppressing information about this. I think it's really scary to know that we live in a time where if they want to frame you for something, not to say that they couldn't always do this. Of course they could, and of course they have at times. I fully believe that the CIA has done that to people before on multiple occasions. But I think it's, like, less common recently than it used to be. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's still happening all the time. In any case, this really feels, there's something really fishy about this case. I feel like there's missing information. I don't think I believe that he did it. I just don't think I do. And again, maybe if they release all the evidence to the public, I will change my mind. I feel like it's odd that they are keeping it so tight-lipped. So anyways, maybe more will be revealed about that. I honestly, I hope so. The Associated Press and the Trump administration have been fighting in court over who can control what journalists have the ability to access the president and ask him questions. A judge recently, Judge McFadden, last week, said that the Trump administration can't block the AP just because he doesn't like that they said that they won't call the Gulf of Mexico Gulf of America. I fucking, that sentence is so stupid. It's so irritating. However, they don't have, like, a firm and official ruling yet, and they do expect it to come through, but there's no, like, set timeline. So it could be another week, it could be 2 weeks, it could be longer, I don't know. They're going to be back in court again tomorrow. Okay, now we are up to over 1,000 international students that have had their visas revoked and or their status terminated. I don't know. I don't know that there's anyone that can do anything about this stuff, is there? I feel like it almost feels like the courts are picking and choosing their battles, and we don't even know if they will win. I mean, we'll find out hopefully kind of soon because of, the situation that's coming to a head. Someone pointed out that if it were not for the Kilmer Abrigo Garcia case, people might not know as much about what's happening right now. And so the fact that he does not have a criminal record, that he is an innocent man, that they don't have any actual evidence that he has any gang involvement, that he was here legally, was told by a judge that he could be here in 2019, all of those facts, and coupled with the fact that this administration admitted that it was an administrative error, just all of it, all the details of this case, it has the ability to potentially protect people moving forward, depending on what happens. And if it hadn't been such an extreme situation, like what if they picked up an actual gang member that they had evidence for? And they took them without due process. Would people be pushing back so hard? It's interesting how you think of, not that anyone should be forced to be a martyr, and nor would he choose to, I'm sure. If he had the choice, he would be back with his family. But he does have the potential to change history. And we will see, and no matter what, history has changed because of this, period. No matter what the outcome is, things will never be the same. The fact that the Trump administration has done this, and in the way that they have done this, has the entire court system up in arms. And I can guarantee you that even the Supreme Court has to be, like, rattled. I don't know that they thought that when they gave him presidential immunity that he was going to turn on them. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to tell them. That was a bad choice. And it will bite each of them individually in the ass before this is all over. Mark my words. Everyone who thought they supported him at some point is going to have a come to Jesus moment. There are more and more and more people on TikTok, on the news. There's like some big news article about the president of the soybean farming organization who voted for Trump 3 times, who is publicly begging him to get rid of the tariffs with China. Sorry, buddy, it's not going to happen. Yeah, people are experiencing some pretty extreme hardship as a result of their racism, honestly. I don't have a lot of sympathy for people who had no sympathy for others. It's not something, part of that too is I believe very firmly that consequences are the world's fastest, greatest teacher. The consequences of your actions have the ability to possibly teach you a little bit about empathy. Walking a mile in another man's shoes, right? That old-fashioned saying. Well, now you know what it feels like to be experiencing hardship as a result of this person. Will that make this man care about women or the LGBT community or people in minority communities? I'm sure it won't. Probably not. But maybe on a long enough timeline with enough pain and any amount of self-reflection, possibly. So fingers crossed that he learns his lesson and he won't do this again. This is kind of funny. I should have saved this for the last, but whatever. Mexican coffee shops have decided to rename the Americano to Cafe Mexicano, and I fully support that. Get it, girl. It's kind of like this very public breakup between the United States and the rest of the world. And even though that's sad, like, I feel like a stepchild of a piece of shit asshole that I also fucking hate. And yet I am tied to this person because he's married to my mother, the United States of America, who also hates him, for the record. I believe with my soul that the land, the literal physical dirt of the earth, hates his guts. I believe it to the very fiber of my being. Anyways, good for Mexico. This is absolutely standard and yet fully and thoroughly disgusting. There is a man named Ed Martin who happens to be Trump's pick to serve as U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., okay? They have to go through a disclosure process when they're being appointed to positions like this, right? Okay. This man hid so much from his disclosure. And it's normal to forget a couple things, right? Not like hundreds of appearances. Oh, I didn't have any media appearances for the year of 2023. That's weird because as it turns out, you've had over 200 media appearances on far-right podcasts and talk shows. And he also has his own fucking podcast, which mysteriously has disappeared from the internet during this disclosure process, where he's happened to say things such as he wants to prosecute President Biden. He wants to criminally investigate people who criminally investigated Trump. He also happened to appear on Russian state media over 150 times. So, yeah. I mean, these people are all Russian operatives. It's so crazy. I would really like to know what Putin's endgame is. Like, does he actually want to take over the land of the United States of America? Does he have a plan for when this country is completely collapsed and it's in the like mushed up, crunched up, destroyed state he wants it to be in? Then what is he going to do? Is he still just going to take over the land masses around his own country and just like let the United States languish? Or is he going to like boots on the ground, try to like take this as a Russian province? Like, what is he doing? I don't know. I'm sure I could probably find some theories on the internet, and I have not started looking, but maybe I will. This is actually a really big story. Another really big story that is like tiny little headline because the world is burning. So, but a federal judge in Virginia ruled that Google has built a monopoly with its advertising, has violated antitrust laws by monopolizing online search. That's actually a really big deal. It's a really big deal. This is the second huge ruling against Google in less than 12 months. And it has the potential to really change a lot of things about the way that advertising is conducted and business in general is conducted on the internet. I didn't like do a super big deep dive into the implications of that case, but I suspect that what they're saying is that because Google is essentially like the search engine, and that almost like all products will direct you to use Google as your search engine, and then that half the page of Google search results are advertisers, that like that is considered an advertising monopoly because they're basically like forcing you to look at their ads, right? I mean, I don't know. What's interesting about that though is that like that's how every ad company operates. It's just that they don't have the power that Google has because Google, sort of almost like Amazon, it's like Amazon has taken over almost all of retail at this point. They're putting business after business after business out of business. It will be very interesting to see all that unfold. It really feels like a week full of very extreme consequences. That's just what I'm observing around me. Not just in the news cycle, but in other areas too. Anyways, if you're experiencing any of that, or if you are feeling on edge, a lot of people have said to me on TikTok that they're feeling on edge. Just splashed me in the eyebrow. Yeah, do everything that you normally do to relax and maybe a little bit extra, because this is very taxing on our nervous system. I think it's important to remember at the end of the day, humans are still just animals. And when the herd around you is agitated, you are agitated. Well, even if you don't consciously realize you're agitated, your nervous system is not fully at rest. So take care of yourself. And I will see all of you tomorrow. Love ya.